What are we discussing on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast? After dropping their series to the Atlanta Braves, who is more to blame right now for the D-backs problems? Is it Torey Lovullo or is it the players?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, animal graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for the personal account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, for the podcast handle, because we are also going live on YouTube Sunday through Thursday after Dbacks games. And so if you guys want to be notified when I go live, I tweet it out before games. So that's why you need to follow me on social media. Hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube, or hit that little bell notification so you can get notified every time I go live. But today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we're discussing that series against the Atlanta Braves. Who's more to blame for the D-backs problems the last couple of weeks? Is it Torey Lovullo? Is it the players? So we'll break that all down. Then we'll take a look at some trends and adjustments the D-backs need to make heading into that series against the New York Mets. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. And also want to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube, like we said at the beginning of the episode, because if you're watching this live on YouTube, don't forget to interactive show and drop some comments in that YouTube comment section, and we might read them live on air. But now let's get into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's talk about that series against the Atlanta Braves, because once again, it was a frustrating series against Atlanta where it felt like the D-backs left some opportunities on the board, of course. And you look at this D-backs team in 2025, you compare it to 2024, you see a lot of similarities. Last year, the D-backs lost an early season series to the D-backs, or lost an early season series to the Braves, where they swept us in April. That series had ramifications for the rest of 2024 because, of course, we lost the finale tiebreaker to a team like Atlanta because of a series like that. And you look at this series against Atlanta in 2025, and I think a lot of it was a microcosm of some of the issues we've seen plague the D-backs so far this season. It was a game where the starter was actually very good. Brandon Pfaadt had another quality start. You put up a good amount of runs if you're the offense, 6 runs more than your season average. And even with a quality start, you scoring more than your season average, somehow it still felt like the D-backs barely escaped with the victory. And I think that's a problem right now. It's something that we felt with this D-backs team over the last couple of weeks, where we could see the rotation perform well, the offense performs well, like whatever the area of the team, it performs well, but it seems like another area of the team will hold this squad back or not perform to their level of expectations. And so it's like we're just not getting that full team effort right now, because when looking at Sunday's game and talking about the positives, because I actually do want to talk about some positives from Sunday's game, the finale, at least we were able to salvage this series against Atlanta with Sunday's finale win, because you had your lefties, of course, come through in a big way on Sunday. Corbin Carroll ripped 2 monster triples in that game. They were like 1 away off the bat. Like, he's locked in. He's in a different zone right now. I didn't want to mention Pavin Smith. Geraldo Perdomo, usually it's Pavin Smith, but Geraldo Perdomo finally got going in Sunday's game. He had a couple RBIs, he had a hit, and then, of course, Josh Naylor, he had 3 hits as well. The lefties put in their work. Brandon Pfaadt was pretty good, except for the 7th inning. He did run into some trouble in the 1st inning, but a great throw by Corbin Carroll to help get the D-backs out of a jam by not allowing a run to score, because we know Corbin Carroll doesn't have the strongest arm, but made a good throw in the top of the 1st to stop Atlanta from threatening to score against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And so you got really good stuff in this game from your offense, from your rotation, but this was still a game that was a microcosm of what has gone wrong with the D-backs this season. And it's not always on Torey Lovullo. We talk a lot about Torey Lovullo and his bullpen management, his in-game management, and in segment number 2, trust me, we're going to talk about Torey Lovullo and some of the issues he's had with the D-backs this season. But at the same time, you can't always just blame your manager. The players on the D-backs also have to perform. Shelby Miller hasn't allowed an earned run all season long, but I think it's a little deceptive when you look at his ERA, because over half the time when he comes in the game, the inherited runners that are on the bases, they end up scoring. So for a guy that hasn't allowed an earned run, it's not like he always has the backs of the starters and the other relievers when he comes in the game, because we saw today, Pfaadt, he allowed an earned run. There was a game recently, I forgot who it was exactly, where he came in to try and stop the other team from scoring with runners already on, and he wasn't able to do that. And Shelby Miller, as good as he's been this year, has not been able to step up in those moments, because once again, over half the time he comes in, the inherited runners are scoring. J-Mart, who we've obviously been calling to be the D-backs closer for a long time, we saw in today's game and in the game on Saturday, like, there's obviously concerns with his velocity, and he gave up the first earned run of the season today. And it's not a surprise when he's only throwing 97, he seems a little bit more susceptible. And you do have to wonder, is that the arm fatigue? A guy that was throwing 100 all season long in his 2 most recent outings, averaging only like 97 miles per hour. For most guys, 97 would be their career best mark. But for J-Mart, when he's throwing 97, that's a concern, because he averages over 100 miles per hour on his fastball and sinker. Jalen Beeks, Ryan Thompson, they were not good in their outing on Saturday. Plus, you had 4 more errors from this D-backs defense, which has been up and down all season long. You can't just blame Christian Walker leaving for that. We've seen errant throws into the dirt by Eugenio Suarez. We've seen errant plays by Lourdes Gurriel and Tim Tawa, and basically everyone on this D-backs roster, not named Alec Thomas, has made a defensive mishap at some point in 2022, or excuse me, not 2022, in 2025. And so you can't just blame Christian Walker leaving for the lack of D-backs defense in 2025. We saw the D-backs make 2 outs at home plate today with trying to send Eugenio Suarez at home at another instance later in the game. Like, there's just so many mistakes by this D-backs team. 4 for 18 with runners scoring position the last 2 days. Like, the issue with this D-backs team is top to bottom. I think our biggest problem is we really don't have an identity outside of being a team that can score late runs. When you think about the D-backs, 2023, 2024, our calling card the past couple years was chaos on offense and elite defense. But the defense has been inconsistent game to game. The bullpen, I think, is super talented, but whenever you need them in a high leverage situation, it doesn't feel like they're coming through. The rotation is starting to turn a corner, but still, like I always say, not a lot of wow starts from the rotation. Our best starts are like the ones we saw today from Brandon Pfaadt, which was still very good, the quality start, but 6 innings, 2 earned runs, like, that's kind of the best we're getting from our rotation. We haven't really seen the 7 2/3, 1 earned run, 9K performance where it's like, bullpen, we don't need you tonight. Just call up Jay Martinez to close it out because our starters got the rest of the game. Not too many of those for a rotation that's as talented as any in Major League Baseball. Having 5 guys that could give you that kind of performance, that kind of, wow, this guy's elite. We haven't seen a ton this season. Outside of Carroll, Josh Naylor, Pavin Smith, the lineup's been pretty inconsistent. Geraldo Perdomo, always great play discipline, but his offense has been kind of hit or miss the last few weeks. Like, I think Torey Lovullo definitely deserves some of the blame pie, but I also think the players on the D-backs need to perform better. But trust me, we'll talk about Torey Lovullo and how much of the blame pie he deserves in segment number 2. But hey, I first want to talk to you guys about FanDuel, because if you're thinking about placing a wager on an upcoming D-backs game, then the best place to do that is going to be FanDuel, because the NBA playoffs are almost here. Well, they are here. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. When I have a good feeling that the D-backs are going to win, I usually do a simple 2-leg same-game parlay. And trust me, the same-game parlay is the way to make money on FanDuel. It's very easy. D-backs money line and the over on runs, because the offense is usually incredible, and when they win games, they're probably going to go the over on runs because they're not afraid to give up some runs as well. And when that 2-leg hits, it brings a big smile to my face. If you want a big smile on your face, don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and reading some of the comments on YouTube, DeMar DeRozan fan, I have to agree with you. Surprised he sent Gino and not Alec Thomas. I agree. When Thomas was running, because I was at the game live, he looked like he was running fast enough to turn the corner and maybe score. So I was like, why are we sending Gino, who is slow, but not sending Alec Thomas? Weird to see. But he also says, what do you think would be the ideal lineup? We'll actually talk about that in segment number 3, DeMar DeRozan fan, why I think the ideal D-backs lineup is. But right now, I want to talk about Torey Lovullo and if we should be concerned with the captain of the USS D-backs, because in segment number 1, I want to start with the players, because at the end of the day, I do believe the players have more control over a game than the manager. Because if Corbin Carroll's crushing the ball, if the righties like Eugenio and Lourdes Gurriel are hitting home runs, like, it doesn't really matter about the bullpen management so much. Like, a lot of Torey Lovullo's mistakes can just be wiped away if your offense is crushing, if your rotation is shutting down opposing lineups. Like, you can get away with a bad manager for the most part. But at the same time, when I think of the piece of this Arizona Diamondbacks team in 2025 that concerns me the most in terms of holding this team back to making it to the playoffs in 2025, and the piece of the team that I think has struggled the most up until this point has been Torey Lovullo and his in-game / bullpen / lineup, just overall management. I do think Torey Lovullo, as of right now, deserves the biggest piece of the blame pie. And I agree, the players need to perform. Let me say that again. Guys like Eugenio, Lourdes Gurriel batting around 200, the players need to perform. But Torey Lovullo also has not done a good job of putting his team in the best positions. And I think you have to take that into account. I look at the Arizona Diamondbacks almost like the Titanic. A great ship, a fantastic ship, the best ship. This D-backs team, super talented from the lineup to the rotation to the bullpen. But just like the Titanic, I'm concerned about the captain of our vessel. Are we going to hit another iceberg like 2024? Or are we going to have a safe voyage? Because I think we've seen a lot of mistakes from Torey Lovullo this season. And I think it's a big issue for the D-backs, whether it's been the weird usage of J-Mart as not the everyday closer. And I get it. Once you start to deal with arm fatigue, if you didn't want to make him, if there's been a little bit more nuance as to why we're not using J-Mart every day, I understand. But prior to the arm fatigue, there should have been no discussion. It should have been make J-Mart the everyday closer, because I don't think you have to worry about his workload if he's the everyday closer, because the way he was being used early, it was like, oh, we're just going to use J-Mart every day in like the 7th inning or the 8th inning or just anytime you need a high leverage moment. they would actually be less concerned for his workload if he just came in games in safe situations or like stuff like that. He would probably actually be used less, and he would know when he's going to be used instead of let me just be ready every single day because I never know what kind of situation they're going to call me in. I think that's a problem. I think the fact that this bullpen does not have defined roles has been a problem for the D-backs this year. Because you go look at Ryan Thompson's comments in spring training, he discussed how much having assigned roles means to the D-backs. A couple years ago, 2023, he said knowing he was a seventh inning guy, Ginkel was eighth inning guy, Sewald was ninth inning guy. It was great for his mentality, going to the ballpark every day, knowing what your job is. So far in 2025, that has been an issue. We don't know what everybody's role and what their job is, right? We had a game this year where we ran out of bench players and needed a pitcher to hit. I think that's an issue. We've had games this year where Joe Mantiply is going out there in a big inning against the Chicago Cubs when both teams' offenses are going back and forth. And we know Joe Mantiply is not going to be good in that sort of situation. Jalen Beeks in game 2 of the series left in way too long. As soon as he gave up 2 walks, I would have thought about pulling him. As soon as he gave up 2 walks and a run-scoring hit, he had to be taken out of that game. Torey Lovullo didn't do that, left him in for another batter, and then he gave up the lead. It just made no sense to do that in game 2 against the Atlanta Braves. And I think throwing 3 struggling righties in the lineup every day also just makes no sense, especially when you have internal players like Randall Grichuk, who you can at least switch it up with every now and then, who are just rotting on the bench. All he does is hit extra base hits, but somehow he can't get in the lineup over Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who consistently is batting like 150 every single day. I just think some of the decision-making by Torey Lovullo all season long has not made much sense at all. Like, why aren't we spreading out the struggling players more in the lineup? I like the fact that all our best players are stacked at the top, but then why is the lineup all of a sudden after 4 really good players, typically Gurriel, Suarez, and then Moreno, 3 guys who are just straight up struggling? Why not spread it out a little bit more, right? Maybe throw up a lefty in the mix of those 3 righties if we know that's like a black hole in the middle of the D-backs lineup. I just don't think that makes much sense. And now we're calling up Scott McGough, who in 103 innings pitched has a 5.59 ERA. Like, what haven't we learned already from Scott McGough throughout his time with the D-backs that makes us feel like it's going to change or be any different? I was scared in this finale on Sunday. The D-backs were going to be leading, entering the 8th inning, and then there was going to be, oh, here comes McGough to try and close out this game for the D-backs. Like, I was so scared that was going to happen today. I just think the in-game decision-making by Torey Lovullo just honestly seems to be getting worse almost every season, and I just don't understand it. He hasn't learned from his mistakes at all over the last couple of years, and I think that's a problem. This D-backs team is supremely talented, one of the best rosters we've ever seen in franchise history, but you look around the NL West, you look around the rest of the National League, a lot of talented rosters, and the D-backs and Torey Lovullo just talks too much about saving guys and workloads. It's like we have to go out there and we have to win games. D-backs last year lost the tiebreaker to the Braves because of our early season shenanigans against the Braves in April where we got swept. But in 2 of those 3 games, we had big leads where we could have won. But instead, we just don't take these games early in the season serious enough. We care too much about saving guys and workload. And it's like, I think that's a problem. I think obviously the record in 2025 is a lot better than last year. The season ended today. We were tied for the final wildcard spot. But at the same time, I think the process that led to the slow start last season hasn't changed at all in 2025. And I believe that is an issue. I love Torey Lovullo as a player manager, but as a strategist, I am concerned. Now we'll talk about trends and adjustments for the Arizona Diamondbacks heading to the next series against the New York Mets. We'll discuss that in segment number 3. But if you're looking to buy tickets to an upcoming game, then the best place to do that, of course, is going to be Game Time, because there's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. If you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket drops as game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. I love Game Time because what I just said, tickets dropping as you get closer to your event, is the truest thing I've ever heard, because I buy tickets now the day of the event. I don't buy tickets early anymore. Kendrick Lamar, SZA, I think they're coming May 27th. I'm buying my tickets the day of, because that's when tickets are the cheapest, and you can only do that through Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Back here on the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's discuss. DeMar DeRozan fan said, do you think the NL West is the toughest division in baseball? I do think it is, because you have a team like the Dodgers who have, I think they're clearly the most talented roster in baseball from top to bottom, just on paper, the most talented, and they don't even lead the NL West. The Giants do, which is insane. The Dbacks maybe have like a top 3, top 4 most talented roster in baseball, and they're number 4 in the NL West. So I do think the NL West is the toughest division in baseball. But now let's discuss some trends and adjustments I want to see continue or change heading into the next series against the New York Mets. The first one, Torey did not hit Eugenio Suarez and Lourdes Gurriel back-to-back in this series, which I absolutely love. If you look at Sunday's game, it went Josh Naylor cleanup, Suarez number 5, Alek Thomas 6, Lourdes Gurriel number 7. And then if you look at Friday's game, and it was against a lefty, so a little bit different from your typical lineup, but we still saw Gurriel's the cleanup, Naylor is the number 5, and then Suarez is the number 6. I think that's what Torey Lovullo needs to do more of going forward. Split up those two guys. Don't go back-to-back with your two black holes in Lourdes and Eugenio. Split them up. And I like the fact they put a lefty in between them, because right now the lefties are carrying your lineup. We saw Alek Thomas on Sunday have a pretty good day as well. So give me that Naylor cleanup. Suarez I like as the number 5, because at the end of the day, if you lead the league in home runs, that probably makes sense as a number 5 hitter. I actually don't mind that Eugenio strikes out, because for Gurriel, I feel like sometimes he just hits a lazy fly ball or hits the ball into a double play. Like, I much rather would just have the home run or the strikeout from Eugenio, and then give me Alek Thomas, who is just like a super wild card right now, right behind him. And then you go back to Lourdes Gurriel, who is more of that streaky, can get hot for 3 weeks, can get cold for 3 weeks. I like him more at the bottom of the lineup. Never thought Torey Lovullo would actually put him at number 7, but I think that's where Lourdes Gurriel deserves to be until he gets going right now. The Dbacks also looks like the last 2 games when they had a chance to win in high leverage moments, the 7, 8, 9 guys were going to be a combination of Ryan Thompson, Jalen Beeks, and Shelby Miller in the 7th, 8th role, with J Mart as potentially the closer. And so I just think that combination is the best course of action for the D-backs. Ryan Thompson probably as your 7th. You go Shelby Miller, Jalen Beeks as your 8th, depending on the righty-lefty situation. I mean, you could go Miller, Beeks, J-Mar as your 9th. But I think Thompson, Shelby, Beeks is going to be some combination of your 7th, 8th, depending on if there's a lot of lefties or not. That's when you'll throw Jalen Beeks a little bit more. And then don't have to think about it, J-Mart as your number 9 guy. Of course, if his arm is healthy, because I did not like the way he looked on Sunday. The fatigue, the velo, definitely concerned. So I would sit J-Mart a little bit longer if he's not ready to go. But I do think that is the best course of action. But also, Ryan Thompson has been looking a little shaky to me in these high leverage moments. Juan Murillo is someone I'm keeping an eye on. If Ryan Thompson, Jalen Beeks, if any of those relievers start going sideways, I'm looking at Juan Murillo as a guy to replace them. Gabriel Moreno. On Saturday, he batted fifth in the lineup. I want to see more of that. I want to see Gabby batting higher in the lineup. I know Suarez went 4-for-4 at 4 home runs, but Moreno is a guy, when you look at the advanced stats, the expected stats, they tell you he's performing better than what his traditional numbers are. They say regression to the mean in a positive way should be coming for Gabby. So because of that, I think he has to hit higher in the lineup. So many times this season, he's batting behind the Suarez's and the Gurriels, who are just doing nothing in the D-backs lineup. I think because of that, it has led to a lack of production for Gabby. But as soon as he hits behind a guy like Josh Naylor, he looks a little bit better on Saturday. So would like to see Gabby moved up in the lineup. So DeMar DeRozan fan, if you're asking me about my ideal D-backs lineup, it starts with Gabby moving up a little bit higher. And then the final thing that I need to see is more chaos from this D-backs lineup. We just have not seen the havoc enough. We saw Perdomo steal a couple bags late in the game on Sunday. Love to see that. But for the most part, D-backs just need to get more aggressive on the bases and not just sending Eugenio home. Like if it's Alek Thomas in that situation, yeah, send him home. But overall, the D-backs need to get more chaotic on the bases. Arizona is 9-3 this season when they have at least one steal in a game. We have not seen enough Corbin Carroll running. We have not seen enough Alek Thomas running. And it's not just like steals. It's also just getting more aggressive, taking extra bases, sending Alek Thomas home on plays where you think you can score, not Eugenio Suarez. So I think the D-backs just need to do more applying pressure on the bases, because I just don't think pitchers are as concerned with us on the base pass as they used to be a couple years ago when we went to the World Series. So that is a trend I would like to see change. That's a trend I would like to see change heading into this next series against the New York Mets. Toastbuster says, are you and Ben Caspick friends? Yes, we are, Toastbuster. He is one of my go-to people that I love to do a crossover with. So we love Locked On Giants host Ben Caspick. That's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.